So we got the Lady Chaos episode, and wow, I can't believe I'm doing one of these. Anyway, Lady Chaos. You know, the episode that probably got dismissed by some people when Heart Fixer came out. And wow, I have a lot to talk about. God, this is gonna sound so weird in post, because I'm not used to hearing my own voice when I record literally anything. But anyway, let's just get right into it, shall we? So the episode starts off with, surprisingly, Adrian in therapy that he talked about he was going to attend in Reckless Driver, with psychiatrist Dr. Sequet as he was talking to her about his father, and how Gabe was truly the worst parent imaginable, besides the whole being a magical terrorist thing, since Gabe didn't allow Adrian to go to school, be in love with Marinette, or have any friends whatsoever, except with his high-class work friends and family who are fortunate enough to have kids around Adrian's age like Chloe, Felix, and Kagami. And the only time Gabe somewhat listened to Adrian was when he said he didn't want to be a model anymore, and instead of taking that to heart, Gabe instead made a 3D AI version of Adrian for his alliance rings. Anyway, Adrian tells Dr. Sequet he doesn't believe that his father, the hero that saved Paris and the person who emotionally manipulated him for years, are the same person. We also find out what happened to Gabriel's original statue at the end of season 5 and why it needed a new one in Mr. Agrest. It was because Adrian as Cat Noir destroyed it, probably out of rage, which I guess explains this look he gave Theo's 10-meter high Gabriel statue concept. To which Dr. Sequet tells him he needs to assemble all the pieces himself to find out who his father truly was, and maybe then Adrian will get a clear answer instead of living with unanswered questions. So after the intro, Marinette is understandably scared that Adrian is going to make a documentary on his father with the help of Nino, since she's afraid the people he's going to ask about Gabriel's past will probably spill the beans that his father was Monarch, which she is hell-bent on making sure Adrian never finds out, since that was Gabriel's final wish to her. Remembers the times I tried to be a good father my ass, because bro, you really weren't. And I don't know when this abuse actually started, since there are times when Gabe actually cares about Adrian's safety one moment, and other times he's willing to akumatize his son to be a supervillain. And I'm glad Adrian is slowly but surely remembering Gabriel wasn't all great. Anyway, Adrian decides to go ask Natalie about Gabe's past, to which Marinette panics to Natalie that she can't say anything about how Gabriel kept Emily's frozen corpse in the basement, or that Natalie was Gabe's accomplice as Mayora, that Adrian's a Senta monster, and oh yeah, that Gabe was Hawkmoth, Shadowmoth, and Monarch. So Natalie decides to tell Adrian half of the truth, that Gabe, yes, did travel around the world with her to find a cure for Emily because of her unknown disease, and not because Emily used the damaged Peacock Miraculous to make Adrian, which actually caused her illness and death. And after a bit of editing, clearly not satisfied with it, Adrian decides to go interview Kagami's mom Tomoe, since she worked with Gabriel. To which Marinette slips out to go transform into Ladybug to go pretty much blackmail Tomoe to not tell Adrian Gabe was Monarch. And she then asked how Ladybug would even know this, and the way she says this makes me believe she buys into Lila's theory that Marinette is Ladybug.
And how do you, Ladybug, know this?
Which makes me wonder, how did Lila figure this out in the first place? Almost like someone's been feeding her info from the very fucking beginning. And who knows, I'll probably make a separate video analyzing Agley. Anyway, Tomoe actually hesitates, saying she doesn't like being told what to say. But Marinette presses on, saying that if Tomoe tells Adrian Gabe was Monarch, he'll figure out she was his accomplice, and so was Ladybug, for keeping this secret for what I assume is months at this point, right? Meaning, if this tweet from Miraculous Fans World on Twitter is correct, the time gap between the season 5 finale and the beginning of season 6 for the new school year is pretty much 2 months during the summer break, meaning the London special and Tokyo special, not to mention Adrian's trip to New York fighting that six-handed monster in the sky, take place during the summer, which also means either Lila has spent the entire summer enrolling at Francois Dupont as her alias Cerise Bianca, spent and or asked Tomoe to spend lots of money stocking up on journals, costumes, wigs, eye color contacts, and more for her, installed a butterfly garden in her lair, or bought lots of butterflies, and finally decided on her villain name being Chrysalis, or been doing fuck all during the summer break and not use the butterfly miraculous to akumatize someone up until the school year starts, since we now know Agley was her first victim. Anyway, Marinette pretty much holds that damning piece of evidence over Tomoe's head of her not only being Gabriel's accomplice, but that Marinette lied to the entire world about Gabriel being a hero so her daughter Kagami wouldn't grow up with an incarcerated mother. So later in Tomoe's house, Marinette comes in with ice cream, and we find out Tomoe is lactose intolerant, which, you learn something new every day. Add that to the wiki. Then Nino and Adrian start their interview with Tomoe, and she starts playing on Ladybug's press conference lie in the London special that she and Gabriel were being blackmailed by Monarch to work for him and design the alliance rings to akumatize the entire world into his soldiers to hunt down Ladybug. And if Gabe or Tomoe said anything to anyone, Monarch threatened to go after Adrian and Kagami, which I guess Adrian could take that as a way why they were shipped to London since
Mrs. Tsurugi wanted Adrian and her daughter to be spared from Monarch's final plan. That's why they were sent to London.
Which I also just realized, since Marinette said it was Tomoe's plan specifically for them to be spared, I guess Gabriel didn't originally think of protecting his own son from his own dumbass plan? Or did Tomoe come up with that plan and Gabriel just agreed to it? Either way you look at it, it's still sinful. Anyway, during the interview, Marinette continuously tries to convince Adrian that Gabriel was a good man, and to convince him to drop this whole interview thing, until Adrian says he wants to interview more people, which Marinette almost snaps out of desperation and rage. And she says they already interviewed the people who knew Gabe well, and Adrian suggests his Aunt Amelie knows things about Gabriel's past, and she's conveniently in Paris looking at houses for her and Felix, and once again Marinette slips out to get to her first. And you know, the more I look at Marinette's manipulating and lying in this episode, the more I think about not only is she becoming more like Lila and Gabriel with their manipulation tactics, but I'm reminded of this line Marinette said from Recreation, more specifically the ending part.
You've locked him in your house. Locked him in your alliance rings. Locked him into a life that allows you to hide behind him in order to justify your madness.
Wait, can I hear that again?
Locked him into a life that allows you to hide behind him in order to justify your madness.
Now watch what happens when I put Marinette clips over that line.
Locked him into a life that allows you to hide behind him in order to justify your madness.
Hey, post-edit me here talking. And speaking of similarities between Lila and Marinette, we got the Regenerazone episode trailer. I definitely said that name wrong. But I noticed older Ladybug looks like Lila with shorter hair, along with Marinette having an absurd amount of journals and heart fixer like Lila does in her lair. Just thought I should mention that. Anyway, back to the show. Meanwhile, like I said, Amelie is trying to buy an apartment for her and Felix for reasons that will become clear when we get to the post-credits scene. And as Amelie was about to buy the apartment, the other client, Mr. Lopez, shows up even though he was supposed to be here earlier. So now they are both at an impasse. And the only determining factor the landlord comes up with is who has a pet. Which I looked it up and it says that the landlord typically does background checks and a bunch of other stuff. So he should have seen Mr. Lopez's dog on the background check. And Amelie said she's planning on getting one, not that she has one. And Mr. Lopez lies, saying he doesn't have a pet and hates pets, and since pets aren't allowed in the building, he automatically gets the apartment, which shouldn't have worked in the first place. And after Amelie leaves the apartment, she gets a call from Marinette to lie to Adrian about his father, and she immediately shuts her down, saying how horrible of a man Gabriel was. And she says just because you lie doesn't mean the truth ceases to exist. And good on her for not folding on Marinette so easily. But now that we finally got to Amelie, I can finally ask this question. So with the way she notices Marinette acting, does Amelie pick up on the fact she could be Ladybug? With the way she's lying to protect Adrian from finding out how much of a monster Gabriel was, and not the fact he was Monarch? Because Amelie definitely knows he was Monarch. Because let's look at the facts. Her of all people had to know Gabe still had the Peacock Miraculous in his possession. And suddenly she hears the news of Hawkmoth, now Shadowmoth, wielding the same Peacock Miraculous that was used to create her son Felix. But then back in season 5 in Emotion, she acts like she has no idea what's going on, saying lines like this.
You haven't been the same since my sister Emily disappeared. Why are you rejecting us? I don't understand how Gabriel could have become so cruel, let alone why you're still complicit in his actions.
Sorry, Amelie. I have no choice.
There's always a choice, Natalie.
which we know it was a plot by Felix so Amelie can see for herself how terrible Gabriel has become. Also, during the interview when Marinette tells Amelie to list some qualities of Gabriel's character, she just straight up laughs, and yeah, that would be my reaction too. And I like Amelie, she's more like a sassy aunt. So as the interview comes to an end and Marinette essentially manipulates Amelie to say the right thing to not upset Adrien the whole time, Marinette quickly ends it and rushes Adrien and Nino out the shop. But Adrien isn't done yet since he decides to interview one more person, the only one who knows what really happened during the final fight in the Agreste mansion against Monarch. That person being Ladybug, and Marinette panics again, saying how will they even contact her, to which Nino says he can contact Ladybug as Carapace. To which I say, ha! I bet she regrets creating that call system now. While yes, it's a useful feature, it's also a bad one when you really think about it. Since if everyone can just call upon each other and receive the call, that means if Lila gets a hold of just one of the heroes, she can pretty much just page the whole team. Or hell, maybe just page them one by one and they'll fall into her trap. Since I think she already suspects Nathaniel and Max as being Capra Kid and Pegasus. Anyway, in the shop, Amelie sees Mr. Lopez from earlier actually with a dog, confirming he pretty much lied to her earlier, which causes Amelie to get agitated and catches the attention of Chrysalis's Ultra Kuma to get akumatized into Lady Chaos, a villain who can pretty much make a chaos bubble, and if you get caught in it, you become her agents of chaos, and pretty much make you act the opposite than you normally do. And while that's going on, Nino, Adrien, and Marinette prepare to interview Ladybug, as Nino transforms into Carapace to page Ladybug, and of course she doesn't answer, so all they can do is wait. But Marinette slips into Adrien's bathroom to call Alia to pretty much beg her to make a Ladybug illusion to lie to Adrien about Gabriel being a good father, and tell him an abridged version of what happened in the Agreste mansion during the final fight with Monarch. And yeah, that totally won't have any consequences later on.
Are you serious?
Of course I'm not serious.
Well, it's hard to tell with you sometimes.
So as Lady Chaos causes chaos, Alia as Rena Rouge makes it to the Agreste mansion and makes an illusion of Ladybug for Adrien and Nino to interview. And Adrien asks her how exactly was Gabriel heroic in his act of sacrifice to stop Monarch, to which Alia gives an abridged version through the Ladybug illusion, saying she was badly injured and before she passed out, Gabriel said something to her, that he hoped Adrien could forgive him one day for being such a harsh father, and that everything he did was to protect Adrien, with Gabriel saying he loved him, which is bullshit of the highest order, and even Alia knows this is wrong. But Lady Chaos finally makes her appearance known to the heroes, and Alia, using her Ladybug illusion, gets Nino to transform into Carapace to get him out so they can transform separately. And as Alia makes the Ladybug illusion disappear, Marinette and Adrien transform in separate places to get to the fight, with Marinette thinking she did the wrong thing by telling people what to say to Adrien during the interviews. Then Marinette, now as Ladybug, meets up with Alia as Rena Rouge, with her rightfully mad that Marinette made her lie to Adrien, and makes her promise she'll never do that again. Well, again, since the Revelator memory wipe thing Alia did consent to, she doesn't remember. But also, Marinette technically didn't say she promised not to make Alia do that again. She just said she was sorry, meaning she probably will make Alia do that again in the future. But anyway, the fight scene. Just like a lot of Season 6 fight scenes, each hero gets to show off their powers. Ladybug gets one, Cat Noir gets one, Rena Rouge and Carapace get one. But now for the big one. Rena and Carapace use their powers to get Cat Noir through the Chaos Bubble, and right when Carapace unshields him, he gets affected by the Chaos, but cataclysms Lady Chaos's staff, and deakumatizes her, and everything is back to norm. Oh yeah, Cat Noir, still affected by chaos, unleashes a world-ending cataclysm, similar to Cat Blanc's. Not the miraculous Cat Noir memory eraser power, no, he almost destroys everything. But Ladybug quickly casts the miraculous Ladybug, turning him and everything back to normal, reversing the damage. Also, let's just count up the amount of Cat Blanc references this season. In Revelator, there was the eraser Lucky Charm Ladybug got, this line,
Aren't you the one saying that the best kept secrets are the ones you never share?
the miraculous Cat Noir memory eraser power is an upgrade to his destructive powers, like his akumatization was. The entire Heart Fixer episode literally parallels Cat Blanc perfectly, including Marinette and Adrien both say a version of,
It can't end like this. It can't end at all.
the breakup between them causing the akumatization, Cat Noir chasing the Akuma to cataclysm it. So with all this knowledge, this has to mean the White Cat of Nightmares is coming back, right? And the writers wouldn't put these parallels in for no reason, right? So after the fight, Amelie tells the heroes she let her emotions get the better of her, because when you have certain principles to tell the truth, it can be hard to put up with evil people or liars. And Alia knows about dealing with a certain liar friend. And Ladybug gives Amelie the magical charm, saying we absolutely need people like her to stick to their principles, with Alia nodding. And near the end of the episode, Marinette and Adrien watch the finished interview about what Natalie, Tomoe, Amelie, and Ladybug had to say about Gabriel being a good person. And Adrien, for the first time ever, finally thinks his father was a good person. And he asks Marinette to draw a happy picture of Gabe, since all the ones Adrien has of him, he looks stern and uncaring. And Marinette agrees, and well, we all know what happens to that picture in Sad Nancy. But anyway, that's how the episode ends, with Marinette staring at a blank canvas. Then we get to the pre-credit scene with Amelie and Felix in an apartment, which from the looks of it, it's the same one from earlier, meaning I'm assuming the realtor saw on the background check Mr. Lopez had a dog and evicted his ass immediately. Anyway, Felix says he's happy to be moving back to Paris to be closer to Adrien cause he missed him, since they used to live in London. Aw, that's sweet. To which Amelie says this line which shocked us all.
Even though Ladybug decided to lie in order to keep your fiance's mother out of prison. In order to keep your fiance's mother out of prison. Fiance's...
And at first my reaction was like, wait, did she call Kagami his fiance? Are they married? Aren't they 14? When the fuck did this happen? But Thomas Astrug pointed this out on Twitter, saying, the reason Amelie called Kagami Felix's fiance is because it's a formal way of saying girlfriend, since Amelie comes from a royal background, like Emily. And yeah, that makes sense for her character to say that. Also, Amelie says they moved to Paris so they can support Adrien when he finds out the truth about Gabe, and be there for him when the time comes. Since Felix, who already knew the truth before her, can't tell Adrien because Marinette and Kagami, mostly Marinette, will shut him down, meaning he can't do anything but wait for him to figure it out on his own. And then we hit the credits. Honestly, I like this episode. And since Amelie and Felix are back in Paris, the secret about Gabe is definitely coming out, especially with all the Cat Blanc foreshadowing. And as you can tell, I have a lot on my mind when it comes to this season, and maybe I'll do more of these. Anyway, bye bye.